Do you wish that you could get a better idea if you'll get along with someone quickly and easily? Are there personalities that are hard for you to enjoy or to vibe with? Do you want to be able to pick up on those traits right away? Like before you invest time or energy and money into someone? By the end of this video, you'll have a fast way of understanding what drives people and what doesn't, and how that interacts with your personality. How you get along with others right away is everything, but usually at first we're love blind or we're haughty blind. However, there are certain personality traits that, if you are aware, can in fact make or break your relationship. Hi, I'm Emily Bigelow. I'm a life and business coach. Different people tick in different ways. They have a variety of likes and skills and traits. And so the bottom line is, do they have some things that you can read through on something as simple as a coffee date to be able to tell if it's going to be a deal breaker or if it's something that you're able to accept and to work with, not change, because the only thing that you're changing about people is their diapers when they're a baby, and we're past that. Self-awareness here is key. What are your deal breakers? But the answer is yes. Yes, they do have some things that you can read through on something as simple as a quick coffee date that you'll be able to tell if it's a deal breaker for you or not. I have a resource to share with you, an actual numeric scenario-based, how would you react here, 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 a way to give you your exact personality type. And I don't know about you, but I'm a visual person. So I created a really great tool that's going to help you easily see the different personality types and traits and generally how people operate, and it will give you a really good understanding on this. Let me introduce you to the 4 different personality shapes and how they interact in relationship. Before we get started, know that you have a dominant and then you'll have a subdominant. So you'll find these answers when you get your quiz. You'll have some of every of the shapes, but you're going to mainly probably have one that's going to be a dominant. Rarely are you going to have 2 that are neck and neck. So the first 2 shapes that we're going to talk about live along the top portion of the quadrant. Those are your squiggle and your circle. So timing-wise, these folks are going to show up to your coffee date, to your fast little, maybe a little bit later. So just generally speaking, they're going to either like run a little bit late, or in the case of a squiggle, because they are such a creative mind, sometimes forget. So if the squiggle, then let's start there. The squiggle maybe kind of forgot. They are the visionary. These people have tons of ideas. So you may think that they go from thing to thing to thing to thing. They just have a lot of ideas going on. Sometimes they lack a little bit of focus and they have a tendency to procrastinate, but these are your idea people. They like to keep things simple. So if you're making your date, you're making your interactions complicated, they're not really going to be so hip on you. To them, anything new is exciting. So you'll see them move from new thing to new thing to new thing to new thing. They enjoy change. They enjoy spontaneity. So spontaneous dates are going to be a really great thing for them. They do not appreciate being controlled in their time, in their commitments. They're very intuitive. So if you have a friend who is a squiggle, they seem to have a lot of ideas and just a lot of creativity flowing through them. They're a really great person to ask, hey, what do you think of this gal or this guy? Because they are super, super intuitive when it comes to people. The next shape we have is a circle. And most of the time your circle is going to show up a little bit late, 10, 15, 20 minutes. So if you're a person who always has to be on time and you're not willing to budge on that, just know that that's just a characteristic of a circle. In addition to circles telling longer stories. So you can usually kind of pick out a circle in that way, but they also need to be needed. Like a friend in need is really something that a circle absolutely loves. They'll put a friend first before anyone, like before themselves. They are stable and they don't like things to change. So if you're spontaneous and you like tons of change, a circle, not so much, right? Harsh words are not really wonderful for anybody, but especially a circle, because they love and they're motivated by connection and love. So your squiggle and your circle, generally speaking, are going to be a little more casually dressed. They're probably going to show up a little bit later, and the stories and the things that they talk about are going to be more of the feeling end. So is this making sense to you? Give me a big yes in the comments below if you're thinking about some people in your life who are circles or squiggles. Maybe that's you. Now, if you're curious and you want to know how to work with these shapes in your career or your professional environment, even families that have to work together, take a look at this video. It's going to be super helpful in that arena. And if you missed this video in the series about deeper diving into the different personality traits, you'll find this one helpful. The next two shapes that we're going to go over live in the lower section of our quadrant, the triangle and the square. So your triangle is probably going to show up 5 minutes to exactly on time. Now, on this lower quadrant, the stories and the things that they talk about are going to be more factual. So you'll be able to tell your triangle and your square because of the stories that they'll tell. They'll be a little bit more along the line of facts and things as they are and less about the feelings like the top quadrant. In the lower section, your triangle and your square, they're going to show up on time. Your square will actually be about probably 10 minutes early because that's on time to them. And on time to a triangle is 5 minutes before to exactly. And they're probably going to maybe be a little bit less casually dressed as well. The lower quadrant like to maybe dress a little bit more. They will dress for comfort as well, but you'll find that they're going to probably just be a little more less than casually dressed. So your triangle showing up 5 minutes to exactly on time, they have an ability to naturally want to take charge or naturally take the lead. And they're actually one way or another. They're actually in it or they're kind of back off. So I'm going to share with you in just a second some real life ways that this plays out in relationship and how it can really make a difference in the things that you're doing. But a triangle, if they're in it and they're doing it, they really want to feel like a master. Give them the guardrails and kind of give them option 1, option 2, option 3. So if you're setting dates, they might appreciate some choices, some kind of calling of the shots, like those kind of things. So if you're finding somebody who's maybe it seems a little more dominant, maybe it's more of the triangle in them that's kind of doing that. Not really great to say to a triangle is, I need you to do this. I need you to, and I know that's not going to come across in the first date, but you'll probably be able to pick up on the triangles. Only 7% of the population actually is a triangle as their dominant. So a little bit less in the population necessarily to worry about. Then you have the squares, and the squares are 23% of the population. So your squares are more of the analyzer, the logical thinker. They want facts, data. So if they're talking about a story, it's usually factual. It's a factual story. They have a natural integrity about them. They're not super into small talk, and they absolutely are totally truthful in everything most of the time. So lies aren't really going to go very far with them. I mean, they're not going to go far with anybody, but especially a square. They lack a little bit of the spontaneity. So if you're feeling like, man, this person's not spontaneous, and they're talking about facts and data, and they may be a square. So the challenge of a square is that they build walls. So on a date, you might find it harder to get in to them, but you need to be invited into their space. You need to ask to be invited. Popping over at their house unannounced, not going to go over well, right? Not wanting to play things by ear, not crazy, not haphazard. They're going to be more of the exact on time. And something about a square is that they might reflect back to you some of your own insecurities. So that can be a little bit of a challenge. I hope this is okay. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how this plays out personally in my life. My dominant is a triangle and my subdominant is a circle. And my husband is a circle and his subdominant is a triangle. So we're kind of flipped or reversed. So if I go crazy about being on time because I want to be on time, and my husband, a circle, oftentimes will run a little bit behind, I could make myself crazy about that. I can choose if that's something that I'm willing to work with or not. The very first time that we ever talked on the phone, we had set a certain time that we were going to chat, and he was 23 minutes late calling me. It's kind of this running joke. 23 minutes late, I almost didn't answer the phone, but I was mad enough to answer the phone. I know that sounds kind of silly, but I wasn't mad. It was just like I needed to let him know that he was late. He said he would call at a certain time. He was 23 minutes late. When it comes to stories, a circle will tell longer stories and a triangle is more of the direct, just like get straight to the point. So we were able to establish really early on this long, ongoing, never-ending story of a circle needed to be curbed and give me like the Reader's Digest version. Just give me only what I need to know, like give me the triangle version. So we have been able to work through some different things in communication, just understanding he's a circle, circle story, circle time, like whatever, triangle, a little bit harsh, not super sensitive, like certain things, and and then we can work with some things together. So that's how this plays out in our relationship. But if I were to allow this, it could really kind of eat at me or bug me. And he, the same way for him, right? My lack of spontaneity or my lack of sensitivity, like certain things could really bother him in me as well. But knowing that we're kind of flipped or opposite. Now, incidentally, oftentimes you'll marry outside of your shape the first time. So, just understanding these personality traits and characteristics, super, super helpful. And just being able to understand self-awareness, what are you willing to accept? What are you willing to, you're not changing people. We're done changing diapers. So how do you know what you are? Grab the quiz at the link below, grab the visual, you're gonna absolutely love it. How do you know what other people are? Just generally speaking, you can figure out if they're on the top, the bottom, the left, or the right. So the top, what time did they show up? Were they late? Did they forget? Are they super dressed casual? Top. On the bottom, did they show up 5 minutes, 10 minutes early, exactly on time? I know sometimes for the first date we have a little bit of falseness about us, but you'll catch the trend. Bottom. If they're showing up 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they're probably generally going to be a square or a triangle. Did they show up a little bit more dressed up, maybe than like just a little simple coffee date? They might be a square or a triangle. What kind of stories did they talk about? Did they talk about feeling? Probably more along the top. Facts, fact, more along the bottom. So decide top or bottom, and then left or right. So your left are going to be a little more dominant. They're going to be future thinkers, kind of the show me, the risk takers. They like attention. And then on the right, the circle and the square, they're thinking about how things were in the past, how things really worked out, kind of behind the scenes. They really like nice words and more of that one-on-one, sometimes a little bit more of the indirect communication. So you can kind of decide top or bottom, left or right. And there's this really simple but actually pretty effective, because there's kind of a psychology behind it. I won't go into it right now, but there's this little bit of a psychology in just asking somebody. I'll give you 4 seconds and 4 shapes. Choose one. And then you tell them squiggle, circle, square, triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let them give you one. And most of the time, they'll probably pick what they actually would test for if they did the quiz. But since we can't go around giving everyone the quiz, get really comfortable and really familiar with your visual. In working with a lot of people, this has come in super handy, and I know that this has been a huge help in my marriage and in my relationship. If you have any thoughts or questions about these personalities, hit me up in the comments below. I would love to know what you think. If you like this video, like it, subscribe, and if you missed any of the videos in this series, be sure to catch those. I think you'll find those super helpful. If you saw value, share the video with your friends. Bye for now.